Aloha! So I am making this video just to give importance to the things that are important to me. It's no matter what I'm doing in the world, it's always important to me to honor the things that got me here. And there is no getting me here, because once you're here, then there's a new place to evolve to. Once you become one thing, then there's a new thing to become. And so I'm just want to create a little snippet to share part of my timeline for one of my passions, which is writing. And one of the things that I am quite proud of is a book that I authored. I think it was in 2013, and I've been inspired to not only re-examine it, but to edit it, because I know as someone who is trying to rush to the printing press that there's some happy accidents in the typography, we'll put it that way. But and not only that, but it's also great to look at something you did and say, how can it be better, and how can I reach a broader audience with this thing? How can I connect to people from all different backgrounds and religions, all the stuff that we think divides us. At least all the things I used to allow myself to be divided from the world from. And now I'm fully embracing it, and the journey that I live, I think, reflects that. So I wish all of you success and happiness and hope and all the beautiful things that you are after in this life. You know, I was once younger than I am now, and slightly foolish, and I wanted to change the world. And now that I'm older and a little wiser, I now only wish to change myself, and in doing so, change the world. At least the one that I'm perceiving, and perception is reality, right? So I perceive nothing but goodness in all of our futures, nothing but abundance in all of the forms that it's already here. I'm very fortunate to live a life as I do. And it's also important to note that I didn't start there, but we all start from zero, and every place that we are is merely a launching pad to where we want to be. And because we have the freedom of thought and choice and our instincts, we can navigate a pretty sweet existence for not only ourselves, but our neighbors, our brothers, our sisters, family, whatever family is to you. I'm a bit of a lone wolf, sort of born into that kind of situation, but Hawaii resonates with me so much because of this idea of ohana. And it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, you're ohana. And when you're ohana, you're family. So I always share and start every video with aloha, because you're my ohana, and whoever you are, whatever it is you're into or not into, we're all on this tiny blue bubble spinning in infinite space together. So with that, have a terrific, amazing, stellar day, and yeah, keep on keeping on, and stay gold. Aloha.
My name is Alexander Demetrius, and I wrote The Reward of Not Knowing, A Hero's Inward Journey, and it is my memoirs of growing up with a mother with multiple personalities, also known as dissociative identity disorder. The basis of my book is rooted in the work of Joseph Campbell, who during his lifetime was one of the world's leading authorities on global mythology. And this book is written to share my most humbling experiences in life, some of my most manic moments, but I'm sharing them from a very human point of view.
You could say that each incarnation has a potentiality within it. And the function of life is to live that potential. So how do you do it? Follow your bliss. Find that thing inside you, that thing that really connects you, that when you give into it, you tell yourself, nothing can frighten me off from this thing.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Serving Consciously. I'm your host, Elizabeth Bishop, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I'm really super excited about our show today. So today we're going to be talking about the reward of not knowing, and I'm so pleased to tell you a little bit about my guest today. Alexander Demetrius' literary experience is primarily influenced by Joseph Campbell, who during his lifetime was one of the world's foremost authorities on global mythology. Using Campbell's monomyth, or hero's journey, Demetrius discovered that critical events from his past paralleled the typical sequence of events found in practically every narrative throughout the world. The Reward of Not Knowing is an account of Demetrius' memoirs transformed into an epic journey that began in San Antonio, Texas, and spans across the Pacific Ocean to Honolulu, Hawaii, where he currently resides. However, he's coming live to us today from Milan, Italy, as a little side trip from his stay in Ireland. What makes this journey unique is that much of it took place within, where so few ever voyage. Through careful reflection and examination, Alexander overcame some paralyzing characteristics that once constrained him to a life of insanity, orchestrated by his mother, who suffers from dissociative identity disorder or multiple personalities. Welcome, Alexander. I'm so pleased that you're here with us today.
Hello, Elizabeth, and thank you for welcoming me. I'm honored to be a guest on your lovely show.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. So I wonder if we could just take a few steps back and maybe you could tell us a bit about your journey and what led you to the work that you're doing now and what led you to writing your book.
Well, as you had mentioned earlier, I grew up with a mother who suffered from multiple personality disorder in layman's terms. And even though I left her to pursue my own interest in the world, I was carrying with me everything that was passed down, you might say, from growing up in such a chaotic lifestyle.
Right.
And because I was seeing all of the awful things that were going on in the world, and consequently the awful behaviors that I was participating in that were getting me absolutely nowhere, I recognized that the attitude and the perceptions I had within me were a direct reflection of the outward experience I was living in the world.
Right.
I recall hearing Gandhi's famous admonition, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." And that struck a chord with me. And in addition to growing up with Joseph Campbell's influence, I decided that in order to change the outside aspect of which I could not control, I voluntarily chose to take a journey inside myself and through self-discovery revivify the life that I had grown tired of and given up the life I had planned to embrace the life that was waiting to be mine. Let's put it that way.
Beautiful. I love it.
If you're just tuning in, please know that Alexander Demetrius wrote the book, The Reward of Not Knowing. And as you know, I had to look that up. This way of writing is like a 12-step hero's journey. So I encourage you to look it up online. It kind of inspired me to look at what I'm writing and try to go by that journey. So it's a very interesting way to write and to look at your story. Thank you for being here, Alexander.
Well, hello.
Is it possible to become aware of and overcome that victim mentality?
Book, which I see that you've also subscribed to its teachings, is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Oh.
That one really put me on track and gave me a sort of discipline to follow throughout my daily life, which really talk about turning a mirror on yourself and mastering your own self. So don't worry about trying to change the masses. You've got the basis of it right here in yourself. When you look at persons in the political field or other arenas, which you think, how could they be that? Well, you can also think, what is their attitude and my reaction to it saying about me? And always turn it back on yourself. And, you know, the presence of a vital person vitalizes. So you can't save the world, but you can save yourself, and in doing so, save the world.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I actually ran into the 4 agreements that I'd been doing self-help work, and even after I wrote the book. But the book, you might say, brought about self-awareness. Now that I had it, what do I do with it? There doesn't mean everything that is afflicting me is all of a sudden magically solved. But for me, the 4 agreements, I would say, here's a tidbit for the audience. If you don't care to read or you prefer audiobooks, go on YouTube. The 4 agreements are available on YouTube, the entire audiobook. Pop it in your ear first thing in the morning. But the one that really, you might say, drove it home for me was do not take anything personally.
Right.
Because that makes the assumption when you do take things personally that everything is about you. And for me, that was how I thought, because I was blamed for everything as a child from this mother. Things that I wasn't even born in the arena for, you just, as a child, accept it as fact and you say, okay. And when you are blamed for everything, then you go out there and you start blaming yourself for everything, which means you have to be poor me, you know, victim. Yeah. And it took me a long time to get tired of being a victim, because a lot of times we just run into the same thing, and we have a high tolerance, or some lower than others, for pain in our lives. But I just reached that situation in life where everything about being a victim was not serving me, and you know, also making assumptions and not being impeccable with my word. And although I always did try my best, so before I could assimilate the other 3, I was definitely doing that one instinctively, because that's that driving force in us. So yes, meditate, read, listen to the 4 agreements. They will rock your world. And they will shake you up, and one of the things you might experience is your life will start changing in miraculous ways. I'm not saying that money's going to fall out of the sky, but that is not necessarily the miracle you may need. A miracle is waking up and saying, I accept all of responsibility for all the choices I make today, and there will never be another day like today, so I'm going to go out there and do this thing. So yeah, that's my recommendation.